All right, this is a really big topic for me. Obviously, read the title, the topic's delusion, and I guess that's what the whole red pill thing is all about. It's a lot of people think that it's adopting a set of beliefs, but I think it's more along the lines of opening your eyes to the world and being more skeptical, including even ideas that are popular pushed about masculinity and even red pill beliefs themselves. The whole idea of not all, Nawalt. I really don't like the generalizations. I see them as a useful tool, but for many of these examples, I have counterexamples. But that doesn't mean to say that we shouldn't open our eyes. We need to be clear about things, and I think that's what the topic delusion is all about. I remember when I first opened my eyes a couple years ago, I think it's about 4 years ago now, I was angry for a year when I realized how the world really was. And then I couldn't listen to music. I couldn't watch any movies. I felt like everything was pushing me to being a loser. And that was somehow even going to make me likable, was being a loser. It was really pathetic, and not me, but it still is the media, what it pushes people to do, and their unhealthy messages they like to push. But this isn't just about the red pill, obviously. It's red pill Buddhism. So, seeing as we live in the West, I have gotten a definition of delusion from psychology, and that's a belief that's held with strong conviction despite superior evidence to the contrary. So it's a pathology. It's distinct from belief based on false or incomplete information. It's when people are telling you one thing and you do the other, or you think the opposite. You completely rationalize all the information you have. And I see that happen all the time. When I talk to my blue pill friends, it's really annoying to hear them rationalize everything and discount the information that they're hearing. So that's the psychological definition. In Buddhism, however, we talk about it, ignorance or misconception about the nature of metaphysical reality. In particular, about impermanence and non-self doctrines about reality. So it's a little bit self-serving there, because ignorance of Buddhism is delusion. But I actually tend to agree with that, for the most part, obviously being a Buddhist. Also, they say that delusion leads to suffering. So it's the first link in Buddhist phenomenology. So you start with delusion, and that leads to your chain of thoughts that leads to suffering. And obviously, as I stated in other videos, it's one of the three mental poisons, hatred and greed being the other poisons. And I'm really excited about this topic because I have never gotten to do a big dive into delusion. And it's taken me a lot of time, but I think it's been really worthwhile to do all this research. So obviously the opposite of delusion is wisdom. And it's really the gateway to evil in Buddhism also. Buddhism doesn't think certain people are evil and certain people are not evil. It's just that some people have higher states of delusion and they suffer more, and that's why they do things that are wrong. And again, this is at odds with mainstream society, movies and TV, where there's always a villain, and also with the current themes, and both on the right and the left. I remember back when Bush talked about there's this evil, And on the other hand, we hear from the social justice people are racist, sexist, whatever. And that's it, though. I mean, I can understand that people can be harmful and do harmful things to others, but to make the person irredeemable, I think, is not a healthy way of dealing with the world. But there it is. So, and then there's the other idea of what is wisdom. That's again a very important topic, and I think it's a huge topic. Again, with postmodernism and a lot of mainstream thought says that we can never know reality. So therefore, it's more of a question of what is true. I don't want to get too deep into it because I believe in objective reality, and if you don't, I'm not really sure I can prove it. I don't want to get into that topic. We listen to a lot of debates on that, and they'll be continue to be had, but I think that's beyond the scope of this talk. If you don't believe that there's some kind of truth out there, some truth that we can access, in Buddhism we believe we can access it through meditation and through learning the teachings, then I guess this isn't for you. So the other thing that's I think was interesting is that delusion leads to karma. So karma is basically just a result of the three poisons, and delusion, I think, in a lot of ways leads to hatred and greed. There's other things. I mean, there's the whole idea of like, why do I do things that I know are wrong, even though I know they're wrong? I do that. I have done that. Pretty much anyone who's tried the no fap thing has learned that about themselves. There's other things I'd like to get off of, like caffeine. I sip a cup of coffee. So I think discipline also plays a role. I'm not sure how discipline and delusion are related. Perhaps that requires more research. Then the other interesting thing, I think, is the definition of samsara itself is the state of being in delusion. So that really blew my mind, but I think it's very true. So therefore, the opposite would be a state of wisdom, would be nirvana. And I think that's pretty cool. Very, very interesting way to look at these words. And it's also interesting how like Buddhism is a web of interrelated concepts. It's not like these concepts stand alone, but all the vocabulary seems to reference one another. So it's this coherent system, which is very similar to, which has been said, or not similar rather, but has been said in the Tan Jeff, the Buddhist monk in Wings of Awakening. He talks about how all the concepts are interrelated, and how once you learn one concept, you can see the other concepts embedded in there. Oh, the other thing I wanted to talk about was the whole idea of waking up. I've seen criticism of the red pill movement as far as stating that that's cult-like behavior, that often when people join a cult, they feel like they're quote-unquote waking up. And so therefore, I must be in a cult, I guess. I'd consider Buddhism to be more of a cult than the red pill aspect, although, again, for me, they also inform each other and they're interrelated. And I think that the confusion is on the side of the blue pill people. There's a couple of reasons why I went down this road, which is mainly my own personal discomfort that I had with women. I've been very shy. Even though I've been married most of my life, I've still been shy with other women. And so that's made me feel that maybe I should change something in my life rather than being, I curled up in a shell for many years, but maybe that's not smart. So that's been one of the doorways to the red pill side of this. The Buddhism has been going strong, and I feel for a while there's been a lot of conflict between the two, but I think a lot of people are now trying to put the pieces together and expand out how meditation can help you in the rest of your life. So yes, it's not going to be canonical Buddhism stuff. I'm not a monk or anything, but I do find that the teachings to be very, very helpful to my life. So then there's the whole idea of lying to yourself, and this leads to honesty. So lack of honesty with yourself and others will lead people to be deluded because you're not telling them the right information. Ignorance. So that's some of the pieces regarding delusion and how it arises, which according to Buddha said basically that it arises based on lack of attention. So again, there's another concept being pulled in. It's mindfulness. Mindfulness is the antidote to delusion, but not just regular mindfulness, but what Buddha called appropriate attention. So that's what I got on delusion.